Welcome to the Early Wedge presented by BetMGM. I am your host, Eric Cohen, otherwise known as EC. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the SportsLine YouTube page. So many great things coming up here with football season only a couple months away. You know, on last week's show, it's just a tough one for me because I was so close. I used to say that all the time on Early Edge and almost so close. But when you give out three of the players who finished tied for second, yeah, we were close. All right, let's bring in the real experts of the show. I've been on a decent run of late, but let's bring in the guys that actually really know what they're talking about. We have the host of the Early Edge every Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, one Sia Nejad, who is one of the best golf bettors in the world. And then we have, not only is he a CBS Sports golf writer, but apparently his handicap is a lot better than I expected, one Patrick McDonald. Patrick, what did you shoot on Saturday in golf?
I shot 74 with 5 birdies on the card.
Was this like a Muni course, or was this? Are you playing from like the tips? Are we talking?
I think it was like 6,600. I'm usually in between there and like low sevens if I'm feeling frisky waking up.
I'm telling you what. The other thing that we talked about in our pre-show meeting, you never know what's going to happen when the three of us log on a few minutes beforehand. I found out I'm the shortest one on this panel. We got Sia, who's what, 6'1". We got Patrick, who's 6 feet. Patrick, who's 6'1", and I'm 5'11". And I know we're all like, I'm sitting down. Patrick's sitting down. See, you stand, right?
What do you mean?
Do you stand on the show while you're doing the show, or do you sit?
Oh, are you serious? I thought everybody sat.
I thought you were. I sit. I thought you were standing.
That is so. What an interesting observation. No, I only sit.
Wait, you're sitting, Sia?
Yeah.
Wait,
I thought you were standing as well. No, you look like you're standing.
You think I do all my shows standing up? That is so interesting.
Yeah. You kind of give it off. You give off the standing vibe.
I think it's the posture. Yeah. Sia's posture is just elite.
See, I was going to buy a standing desk at one point because I thought if Sia's standing, well, then maybe I should try. And I actually sent it back, but that's why I did it, because I thought you were standing. I'm like, oh, he's so good at this, I'm going to buy one too.
Wow. Well, I can say in my legal days, back in the day, there were people like, that's when the standing desk became kind of popular and people really like it. I think if I was doing it for hosting and being an analyst, I feel like I'd kind of be moving around a little bit too much because I'm standing and kind of shifting my feet. And I think that would be annoying to the viewer. I could be wrong. I've never done it, but I literally thought you were like making a reference or a joke that I just didn't understand. No, I've never stood up doing a show.
Wow.
You know, with the John Deere Classic being in action this week, we got to talk about other things. This field is a joke. We know that. I guess. All right, Patrick, I'll start with you. I mean, when this is your storyline, you know this tournament is kind of embarrassing.
Well, I mean, Jordan Spieth is the story this week. He has to be. He adds this late on his schedule because he's 59th in the FedEx Cup standings, right outside the top 50. That gets into signature events. Kind of in no man's land, like Justin Thomas last year. Could easily fall out the top 70 if he keeps playing like this. And from a statistical perspective, worst iron season since 2019, which was his down year. Worst around the green season of his entire career, which is baffling to say. Putting is about a neutral, which is not good for Jordan Spieth. And the driver is one of the best of his career. So it's, I think there's a lot on that wrist injury. He's not telling us, which, totally fair. And he needs to find something soon, and hopefully it happens this week for him.
You know, I was at Pinehurst after he completed the second round. I was standing by the practice green, and he and Michael Greller were working on 5-foot putts, and he was missing every single one of them. And I told myself, after I saw that, Jordan Spieth should be added to my no-bet list. But my luck, I would add him this week, and then he wins. I can't bet him. So those of you who want to, go for it. Sia, we know you're the smartest one. I mean, just you're a lawyer. You've gone through all that schooling. Way smarter than I am on this program. And your storyline is also over my head in a way. Explain what you mean about that.
Yeah, the smart thing is funny because I was pretty bad last week. I faded all the right people, but like the people I entrusted, like Robert McIntyre and Taylor Pendrith, they didn't exactly work out. So I don't know how smart I am, but I was about to keep this show off the rails and tell a story about when I took the Florida bar exam, which was my second of 2 bar exams that I took. I'll save that for another time because
go. I mean, what? This is the John Deere Classic. You're
quick,
going to get it in, you know.
Well, real quick, I'll do it in 30 seconds. So I took the Virginia bar. I took 2 bars. I passed them both on the first time, but the Florida bar was 3 years removed from the Virginia bar because I practiced law in Virginia for 3 years, and then I moved down to Fort Lauderdale. So I kind of had to like do the bar exam all over again, which is not a fun thing to do. It's a 12-hour test, 6 hours on each day. And the thing about Florida, it was Florida law that you had to know, not just like national law. So you have to know the state law and the national. Anyway, long story short, I'm on the first 6-hour set. So day 1 of the Florida bar exam, it was not going well for me in my head, at least. And I like almost walked out of the room. I was still barred in Virginia. I could have walked out of the room, moved back to Virginia and just practice law in Virginia. But I ended up sticking it out, and I did really well, as it turns out. I didn't, but it's just funny because I literally had a moment like 4 hours in where I was like, I don't think I'm getting these right. I'm going to walk out. But I did.
That sounds like my golf round on Saturday. About 6 hours, about 4 hours in, I said no, it wasn't that bad. But the way I was playing, I was like, I need to find a new hobby. All right, go ahead with your storyline. Sorry about that.
So listen, Jordan Spieth is at the top of the board, and then Sung J M. Like we know this is a birdie fest, and we know when it comes to birdie fest, it lends itself to variance. So I just think this is a really interesting, maybe even more interesting than last week, because the top of the board is littered with guys that like, listen, Sung J, I get. There's arguments for some of the people at the top of the board that I kind of get, but look at the top 10 on the odds board. Like this is not exactly a who's who of guys that are winning in 2024. So I think this is really a tournament where some of these guys in the 20 to 30 to 1 range that are, relative no names can really spring a win, but also we could have a Cam Davis situation where we got a guy at 70 to 1 or 80 to 1 or 110 to 1 that can win this tournament. I think this one is up for grabs, and that's good in a sense because long shots I think are in play. It's also bad in a sense because that type of variance where you're really leaning on, like we're looking at accuracy here, right? We're looking at ball striking. We're looking at approach play. We're looking at getting hot with the putter. When you're looking at matchups and things of that nature in top 20s and top 30s, like watch out because you get 5 or 6 guys that you're not expecting that are, 100 or 150 to 1 having a good week. And all of a sudden it pushes your guy out. So you do have to tread a little carefully here, but I do think there's some advantages to knowing that this type of variance can lend itself to some long shots hitting.
Japan, from the chat, let me just clarify one thing. I am probably the fastest golfer on the course that you will ever meet. I could just, if the way I play, there's no practice shots. We get up there and we hit it. I am the opposite of Patrick Cantlay. You have nothing to worry about there. Just want to point that out. All right. My storyline is, will the trend of long shot winners continue here, as the last 6 at TPC Deere Run have been 50 to 1 or greater? If so, not good for me. But I have some alternatives. I know, just looking ahead, that you guys prepared well. Patrick, with your long shots, you have a few. Sia, I actually have to go back and look at yours. But yeah, I mean, this is going to be a one, as Sia said, it's a birdie fest. You don't know what's going to happen. Patrick, are you kind of feeling that long shot winner this week, or do we just throw that trend out and say meaningless?
We all write articles for SportsLine. My picks, I got them in before the Cantlay WD. The odds were great. Was feeling great about the card, but I'll be honest, like my picks tonight, there are other ones in there just because the odds board shifted so dramatically when he WD'd. So it's all just a very strange week. Like Sung JM early in the week being north of 20 to 1. It's like, yeah, that's something you could definitely buy in on given his play, but now it's down to what, like 14-ish? And you're kind of scratching your head. So it kind of threw me a curveball, to tell you the truth. So I'm one guy up top who I'll always bet on, it seems like, in these Gen Pop events. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to find out who that's going to be. And then sprinkle just mid-range and long shots kind of like usual.
Japan, we don't have woods in Arizona. It's all desert. All right, Sia, we're going to start with you with DFS picks. Actually, you know what? I love your DFS picks this week. I think you are spot on. I don't know about your third guy, but the first 2 are amazing. Start with Davis Thompson, who was one of my picks on the show last week in the without market. I thought, hey, I got a chance to cash. Then he leaves a birdie putt short on 18, which is just disgusting. Why do you like him at 9,600 this week?
Yeah, it was good. For one of the few bets I hit was Cam Davis live. I tweeted it out before round 4. It was plus 650. BetMGM had a boost to get it to plus 864. So made some money back on that one. So I was kind of happy to see some of those other guys fold. But Davis Thompson, 9,600. This is one of the guys, 2 things here. This is one of the guys that I think can win the tournament. He's playing well. He's playing like I think we thought he was going to play a little earlier in the season. I tried to simplify things a lot here, looking at weighted tee to green, looking at accuracy. and then kind of using those as like big metrics and then kind of taking a look at everything else. But again, I simplified things a little bit this week. Obviously, recent form and course history came into play as well. What I love about Davis Thompson is that in spite of the fact that everybody notices that he's playing well, I don't think he's going to get a ton of ownership. And that's because he is around a lot of people that people want to play. Like Maverick McNeely, I think is a fine play. Sung J M, Aaron Rai, they're all right next to Davis Thompson, right under Davis Thompson. Denny McCarthy, people are going to want to play him as well. Maybe not so much Jason Day, maybe a little Keith Mitchell, but those first 5 names I said, I just think Davis Thompson's going to get squeezed out a little bit because I don't think he's the favorite among those 5. I don't think he's in the top 2. And I think people look at a price tag of $9,600 next to Davis Thompson and they say, well, that's way too expensive for Davis Thompson. Well, you're right. But don't forget, DFS, we're playing a game. If everybody thinks that, that means Davis Thompson's probably going to be lower owned than you might expect. So maybe take the expensive guy, go ahead and pay that money because you can find discounts everywhere else. One of those discounts, perhaps, Seamus Power at 8,300. I love the course history. I love how he's playing. I love how he grades out with the ball striking, with the weighted tee to green and the accuracy. I think Seamus Power can win this event. I think I wouldn't be surprised at all. What I was surprised about was that he was 45-1. I actually thought, even, with Cantley being out and Cam Davis and some others, I still thought he'd be in the 55 to 60-1 range. So I wasn't super in love with the 45-1, but I really like how his game is trending. And Patton Kizzire, when you look at birdie fests and you look at some of the stuff like accuracy and the weighted tee to green and just the ability to like the birdie or better percentage, things of that nature, Kizzire's that dude. Like I really like him at 6,900. So I think there's a lot of guys in the 6K range. I like Ben Coles that Patrick has is one of them, but Patton Kizzire, he's very hit or miss. He could absolutely miss the cut, but he's a guy that has some history here as well that could definitely top 20, top 30 this tournament pretty easily, in my opinion. Maybe even potentially be a first-round leader. Stay tuned for that. I'm fading Jordan Spieth. There's no reason for me to play him. He's won here twice, but it was a long, long time ago, and the metrics don't speak to me at all.
Patrick, I got to admit, I'm a little disappointed in you for this part. I wrote up my SportsLine column yesterday.
Yeah.
And in my long shots, who do you think I included at 100-1? Grayson Sigg. So I said, for sure, if I'm putting him in my long shots, he has to be in Patrick. Wait, he's not. But Ben Coles was my other long shot. And all right. So I'll give you some redemption here. Why Ben Coles this week?
Top 20 last week. Been playing great golf. Ball striking still there. Great course fit. Great putter as well. So everything lines up. We just saw him contend a couple months ago there at the CJ Cup. So why not see if you can do it again? Andrew Novak's a guy I really like this week at 7,500. He seems to come and go in waves. You think about the beginning of his year, rattled off 3 top 10 finishes there, one at the Phoenix Open in your neck of the woods, EC. Seems to be back on that trend, back-to-back top 20s, one in Canada, last week in Detroit, putting it well. Iron play is returning as well, so that's always a good sign. And then Ryo Hisasune, I think I might have nailed that, fellas, at 7,600. The man from Japan, my brethren, has been quietly kind of piecing it all together slowly but surely. Not a ton of great results, but the metrics look great. He's a guy who can really match that approach play and putting, it seems like. So I like his upside. I mean, he's only 21, was on the DP World Tour last year, got one of those cards and came over here and is slowly but surely kind of finding his footing on the PGA Tour. And then, honestly, I'm probably not going to play Jordan Spieth, but Sia took that one. So it was like, all right, what am I going to do at the top? And I was like, I get the Aaron Rai love. His ball striking is bonkers. It's trending towards elite levels, and he's got a new putting coach. And you see it the last 2 weeks, they're really working on green reading, and it's paid dividends for sure. But I'm hoping, maybe that regresses to the mean, and in a birdie fest, that'll be tough to keep up if you're not making a ton of putts. So I'll put in quotes, fade Aaron Rai at 10K.
Hey, can I just say something real quick about the Aaron Rai fade and the Jordan Spieth fade? If you really want to be different in a tournament that you think there's going to be a lot of variance, fade the top 4 guys. And that includes guys I like Sepp Straka. And I do like Aaron Rai a little bit too, but those guys are going to suck up so much ownership, probably somewhere between all 4 of them, somewhere between 20 and maybe like 27, 28%. If you start in the 9K range, regardless of whether it's Mav or Davis Thompson or Denny or God forbid, Jason Day or Keith Mitchell. Like, if you start there, you are going to be very different. It's just something to consider in a tournament like this.
Aaron Rai is the new honorary member of my auto fade list. He is not officially on the list, but after what I saw from his last 27 holes or thereabouts, I'm out. When you can't win he's dominating. His ball striking was elite through basically 3 rounds. And then the guy can't hit a fairway in the 4th round in wide open Detroit. Look, what are we doing here? You're not winning anytime soon. Good player. You're not winning anytime soon. Tell you that. I mean, on the 18th hole, all you got to do, give yourself a chance to make birdie, and he hits it under a tree. What are we doing? Sorry, he's out for me. All right, Sia, you finally have painted the board here for FRLs. I love it. I mean, you got this whole thing, you got this whole system this week, giving them all out here on the Early Wedge. Let's hear why you like all these guys.
Yeah, by the way, I now like Aaron Rai to win this tournament. We might have to add
thank
that.
you. Thank you.
Thinking the same things. Yeah.
To my outright list. All right, so I don't know how I want to play Sung J M. Like, I don't think I want to take him outright. I think he's overvalued at this point. I don't think I want to take him in DFS because he's probably going to be the highest owned guy, or at least among the top 3. So, okay, let me play him in the 1st round leader mark. I do have to admit, he's looking very good. The finishing positions are great. The metrics, how he lines up for this particular course, all looks very good. He has a morning tee time. Instead of taking the 14-1 or whatever it's being offered at your book, I'm going to take the 30-1 on 1st round leader. And then I got a bunch of long shots. I'll just rattle through them real quick. Sam Stevens, I don't know that I think he's like the best course fit, but he does rate out really well in terms of the recent form. He can get hot with the putter. Really like him. Not to win the tournament necessarily, but at 65-1 as a 1st round leader. Johnny Vegas is a guy I used to take in the 1st round lead a lot, like 3, 4, 5 years ago. And then he got injured and his game hasn't been the same. But if you look at the recent form, it does appear like Johnny Vegas is back. The accuracy is there. We know typically the ball striking is there. The putter hasn't been bad either. I think he's super sneaky in DFS. Let me just point that out as well. I don't know that he can sustain it for 4 rounds, but he's trending in that direction. Give me 75-1. Patrick McDonald just sung the praises of Andrew Novak. I don't think I need to add much to that list. He can absolutely spike. And again, he does go in waves. And this is the type of tournament where we can see him have like a pretty good finish like he did earlier in the year. And then there we go, Patton Kizzire. By the way, his history here, which I referenced when I was talking about him in DFS, cut T6, T11. And he gained 2 out of the 3 times when the last 3 times he's played here. I mean, that's the problem with Kizzire. A lot of times he can kind of really fail with the putter, but it's hit or miss there. That's what you're looking for a 1st round leader. He can absolutely spike. He's done well with the putter here over his last 3 occasions. When you look at it collectively, he can get hot with the ball striking. 90-1. I love that.
Coming up next in the matchup section, Sia will give us a geography lesson because I certainly need one after we hear from one of our sponsors. Get your pens ready for Sia's geography lesson as he teaches us. But let's start with Patrick here, who, I just went on this rant about Aaron Rai, and then I look at the picks. I'm like, oh, wait a second. Patrick has Aaron Rai in one of his matchups. Okay, so why are you playing Mr. Rai this week?
Yeah, I got him. This might be a stale number. It's probably -140. Sorry. I still like it though. -140 over Jordan Spieth. Classic tale of a good golfer versus a bad golfer. And I'm going to take a good one. Sometimes, fellas, it is just that easy. Famous last words, knock on wood. But like I said, the ball striking is great. Spieth is in disarray, unfortunately. So I'm going to take the Englishman over the American. And then Davis Thompson, -120. No ties on this one. This is at 365 over Jason Day. Jason Day's ball striking has been abysmal, just making a ton of putts, which is pretty scary to go against, to tell you the truth. But Thompson was awesome, right? Easily could have won last week, I think. Had he made a couple more putts there over the weekend. I was there with you, EC. People forget. And honestly, not to kind of rain on your parade even further, but I did throw a wager on Minwoo Lee at the halfway point. So I'm going to take that one on the chin. That one's on me. That's for kind of mushing my Tom Kim pick the week before. I had to do it again, but back to you. So I threw a little money on Minwoo. Apologies. I mean, just a par on the last, and he's in a playoff. But Thompson's been awesome. So I think it's just another case of someone who's playing good and someone who's not, and we're just fading a couple big names. So Rye over Spieth and Thompson over Day.
Minwoo Lee on the 18th in Detroit was like the one time I was trying to break 80, and all I needed to do was make bogey. I had a third shot, about an 80-yard shot over water, and I bladed it. That looked like Minwoo Lee from a little bit further out in the fairway on 18, went over the green, and then made an absolute mess of it and made a bogey and found a way not to be in a playoff. Absolutely and utterly disgusting. All right, Sia. I have never been to Europe. I don't know what is considered continental Europe or not. Can you please define what does this mean and how does Sepp Straka fit into it?
So top continental European, it's a nationality play. Sepp Straka plus 110. So continental Europe is mainland Europe. So take out Ireland, take out Great Britain, take out Iceland, and include the rest of Europe. And I think that's where you've got, and somebody can fact check me on this. I think that's where you've got continental Europe. So I like Sepp Straka there at plus 110. You look at who he's up against. It's not great. It's not a dream team of like, it's Thorbjorn Olsen. He's on there. And I liked him last week. I was wrong about him. He could have a good tournament, but he's not going to have the Sepp Straka type tournament. You go down the list. There's just Sami Välimäki is on the list. He's like probably third in line. I just don't see these guys having even a top 30 experience here. There's 5 or 6 names on the list. Sepp Straka, I think, is going to be, maybe he might win this, but I certainly think top 10, top 20 is in play. Instead of taking the T10 or T20, I'm going to take Sepp Straka as top continental European at a plus number. Maverick McNeely, minus 130 over Keith Mitchell. This comes down to who's hotter right now, and I do think it's Maverick McNeely, in spite of Keith Mitchell's ball striking being great, and who's got the better putter, and that's part of who's hot now and who's not now, right? Maverick McNeely didn't have the best tournament last week. A lot of people were on him. The expectations were really high. Couple bad rounds, couple good rounds, but what I like about him is how he profiles for this course and how he can get red hot with the putter. Keith Mitchell, I don't have any confidence in that. And then Aaron Rai over Jordan Spieth for the same reasons. Like, let's reduce it to what it is. Jordan Spieth isn't like minus 170 because Jordan Spieth carries some name recognition and because he won here, what is it now, 9 and 10 years ago. I mean, I'm just not like, look at the metrics, look what he's done, not just in a short sample size, but a pretty large sample size. Maybe the wrist injury is in play. I'm not sure. But even if Aaron Rai even if he finishes 20th, I still think he beats Jordan Spieth here. So I'll lay the minus 140.
And where did you get these books? What books were these at?
I think these are all the top continental European. You can pretty much get anywhere at plus 110. I think these two are from DraftKings, though.
So when Jordan Spieth wins going away this weekend, you can thank the Early Wedge for telling you not to bet. No, if Jordan Spieth finds a way to win this weekend, I don't even know. I just might not bet the next tournament and just give my money to Patrick and Sia to invest for me. All right, let's do a couple of these here. I went 2-0 last week. Take it. Seamus Power over Bo Hostler. So shockingly, Seamus has been pretty terrible for a long time. He has no regular season top 10 since the 2022 PGA Championship, which is mind-blowing to think about. But in his last 5 tournaments, he has 2 top 20s in the top 30, and he's 5 for 5 here in terms of making the cut with 4 top 25s. Meanwhile, Bo Hostler has missed the cut in 3 of his last 5 tournaments, and in 3 appearances, he has only 2 26th place tournaments. Try saying that 3 times fast in 3 appearances. So we'll see if he can do better than that, but I like Power over him at minus 130. You can find that on DraftKings. Also on DraftKings, Lee Hodges over Doug Gim at minus 115. So Doug Gim's really fighting through it right now, kind of like my game. Well, except he's a lot better. Gim hasn't finished inside the top 30 in his last 9 stroke play events, and he only has 1 top 20 here in 4 appearances. Meanwhile, Lee Hodges, 3 top 25s in his last 6. This is more a fade of Doug Gim than anything, so we're going to roll with Lee Hodges at minus 115 over Doug Gim, also from DraftKings. All right, Sia, let's go on to the the finishing positions here. Last week, I went 3-1. I felt really good about this, and I absolutely love your first play in Davis Thompson.
All right. I love that you love it. Good job last week, by the way. You always sing our praises, but I had a bad week last week and you did not. So good stuff from you. Davis Thompson, T30. I don't think we need to address why I like him here yet again. I think minus 120 is a good number. Listen, if you want to be a little more risk averse, play him in the top 20 market. You certainly play him in the top 10 market. Those numbers are a lot more beneficial than the minus 120. But I'm going for a win here. That's kind of what's more important to me. And I do think Davis Thompson can sustain a bad round and still finish within the T30 here. Sam Stevens plus money. Again, I really like how he profiles for this course. I like how the game is trending. I'll take that at plus 115. Seamus Power T30. I think this is another one where you can maybe flirt with a ladder, where maybe you do that with Davis Thompson as well, where you have Seamus Power maybe top 20, top 30, top 40, and try to hit them all. I don't know that he's going to win this tournament, but you could even ladder that to T10. Again, when you're laddering, you're just reducing the unit size as you're getting more risky, if you will. So if the T10 is, and I'm making this number up, if the T10 is, plus 370, that might be a 0.2 unit versus the T30 at 0.75 units, or however you decide to bet it. Ben Cole's T30, I think we talked about him with Patrick. Plus 230. This guy can get really hot with the putter and with the approach play. I think he's super sneaky in DFS as well. Maybe not that sneaky. I think some people will actually play him in that 6,600 range. But plus 230 is a very nice number.
So Casey earlier in the chat said something about Dirty Denny time. Yes, it is Denny McCarthy time this week for a top 10, if not higher, at plus 200. Yeah, I got this including ties on DraftKings. You can also find it on BetMGM, of course, where they pay out ties in full. Denny has been a T6 here the last 2 years, gained nearly 9 strokes putting combined, and he's second on tour this year in strokes gained putting, which is fantastic. Now, last week on the show, I gave out JJ Spawn, who had terrible form. We talked about that. The guy goes and finishes T10 because he had great course form. This week's recipient of that is one Adam Schenk, and I'm playing him top 20 at plus 240. In 3 of the last 4 years, he's finished in the top 6 here, and the other was a withdrawal in 2022. Now, he's been absolutely terrible in his last 7 events, but we're going to take great course history to outdo poor current form. Let's take a shot. The JJ Spawn Award of the week goes to one Adam Schenk. And then Sia and Patrick, you talked about Ben Coles. I'm going to play him in the top 40. Been positive with the irons and putter of late. Solo second, which is something that I didn't remember at the CJ Cup. Byron Nelson behind Taylor Pendrith, who, by the way, he should have won. And then Taylor, who I bet last week shouldn't have been in the tournament, shouldn't have made the cut because I think he finished dead last. I think he was one of my top plays. He should have finished dead last of those who made the cut. Yeah, I'm bitter. You're right. I'm still bitter, and I'm going to be bitter.
I did warn of the college game day. We all picked Taylor Pendrith pick of the week. Yeah, it happened.
That's why I'm saying the reverse is Jordan Spieth this week. Jordan Spieth's going to contend just because we all hate him. I mean, we know that. But
we'll see.
If you believe that Jordan Spieth is going to contend and you want to play him in a finishing position bet, there's no better place to do it than one BetMGM. New BetMGM customers can sign up today and get up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Just place your first wager of at least $10 and you'll receive up to $1,500 instantly if your bet loses. Easy for me to say. With bonus code EDGE, that's EDGE EDGE. I'm going to take a breath and we're going to hear from one of our sponsors.
Well, you need your sports news anywhere?
We've got breaking news to bring you.
Then get your sports anytime you want them. Big trade news overnight to discuss.
Because we know you need sports all the time.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
A legend adds to their legacy.
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
CBS Sports HQ, anywhere, anytime, all the time.
All right, you guys can bash me for my auto fade list. Okay, it's a thing. Putting Scotty Scheffler on that list was embarrassing. But putting Cam Young on that list is not embarrassing. And everybody should know by now, you can't bet Cam Young to win a tournament. He had a golden opportunity last week and just did nothing. And then he breaks his driver. Patrick, have you ever broken a club intentionally on the course while playing?
No, because I think my dad would break my arm if I ever did that on the golf course. I mean, I think after this weekend, Cam Young's got to take a long look at the man in the mirror and figure some things out on the mental side coming down the stretch. He just seems too hard on himself for making mistakes. And you hear guys who learn to win on the PGA Tour realizing like, hey, you don't got to be perfect to win out here. You don't have to put together a perfect final round. Stuff's going to hit the fan. So, bummer to see. I mean, that was probably his tournament to win, to tell you the truth, over the weekend, and just did not get it done.
In a roundabout way, your CBS Sports golf colleague Kyle Porter tweeted out the other day that he looks like he's having the least amount of fun of anyone on the course. I actually can't disagree. He and Cantlay are in a battle for who is having the least amount of. Patrick, who else would you add to that list?
I will say the one thing I do appreciate from Cam Young is like showing emotion. Like not a lot of golfers do that. Like I would rather have Cam Young slamming clubs, yelling at himself, cussing at himself than, you know, what kind of irked me the wrong way or rubbed me the wrong way was like Tom Kim chopping it up with Scotty Scheffler down the stretch there at the Travelers Championship, right? Laughing and everything during the playoff. Personally, I'd rather see the Cam Young thing. I think that's more, that's better to watch as a sports fan.
Sia, what do you think about that? Do you agree with Patrick? Or I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Well, I thought the Tom Kim thing was a little weird, like, you know, heading into the playoff or right before the playoff where he's like, it almost looked like, you know, he's like cracking jokes with him and trying to make him laugh. I am sinister enough to think that Tom Kim is a couple levels ahead of us, and he's thinking, I'm not trying to relax myself when I'm cracking a joke or I'm trying to make Scotty laugh. I'm going the extra level, and I'm trying to shake him off his game by being so jovial, which is just so unorthodox that maybe it'll shake or rattle Scotty like this is a part of my master plan type stuff.
I'll tell you what, that is a savvy take, and I'm here for it. So I like that. Not that I disagree with what Patrick said, because I don't. I understand you want somebody who's intense. I also think that breaking your club on the back nine of a tournament that you're in contention for is
bozo move. Bozo move.
Yeah, it's not a good look. All right, let's talk about somebody who's not a bozo. Patrick, you're one outright who I think is my top pick, my one and done this week. Denny McCarthy. Why do you like him?
He is my one and done pick as well. I need to get back on the saddle here. A couple bad weeks. Like you said, though, right? Back-to-back top six finishes. You see some of the winners here. A lot of good putters. Spieth in the heyday. ZJ, Brian Harmon, Steve Stricker can certainly follow that path. Had a good ball striking week at TPC River Highlands. So it's like, hey, man, it kind of feels like time for you to get into the winner circle. He's been close, obviously, before lost in the playoff to Akshay at San Antonio. So I'm going to give him a run there at 22, even though the price is pretty short.
All right. See, here's the thing. Your first two picks are great, but I'm just having a hard time putting an amateur, a guy that's not even getting a paycheck for this tournament, at odds sub 50 to 1, much less odds sub 100 to 1. Why do you like Luke Clinton?
Well, okay, so two things here. I got him at 65 to 1. This thing crashed. BetMGM opened him at 65 to 1. I jumped on it right away. I put it in my SportsLine article, which was published Monday afternoon, and I'm not 100% sure where the number was the moment that my article was published, but it wasn't down to 45 to 1. But so at 65 to 1, I really liked it. At 45 to 1, like I'm putting it on here because I did bet Luke Clinton, and even at 45 to 1, I bet him because I think he has the potential to win. I really don't care that he's an amateur, especially because we know who's at the top of the board here. Like, what has he done the two times we've seen him? It's a small sample size, but at the U.S. Open and last week, he was awesome with the ball striking. He caught fire, particularly last week, pretty much across all metrics. He's a guy that has length, which might not benefit him here. It might a little bit, but he's also been pretty accurate. Again, a small sample size. So if I can get a guy in the 60s or 50s or even 45 to 1, you know, at this number, I don't love it. But if I can get that type of number on a guy that I'm not 100% sure what his upside is, but I've seen enough of a sample size, a small one, but enough of a sample size to think that maybe in this field, he can just pass everybody. So that's why I'm on him. Again, the number did get chopped a little bit. The other two, pretty easy sells. Sepp Straka's won here before. Great course fit, accurate, can get hot with the putter, all those things. And Davis Thompson's ball striking has been really, really good over the last 5 or 6 tournaments. And the putter, sometimes it fails him, but more often than not, over the last 4 or 5 tournaments, he's been pretty good in the putting department as well. This is one of those where I'm looking at Denny McCarthy and I see his experience, I see his pedigree, and I'm looking at Davis Thompson. They're the exact same odds. I'm just deferring to recent form here. Denny has the experience. He can probably close a little bit better than Davis Thompson, but I feel like Davis Thompson is in a better position right now than the other guys in the 22 to 1 range to actually be there on Sunday morning, to get there Sunday afternoon.
All right, Patrick, trivia time for you. So Nick Dunlap in January was the 9th. It was the 9th time an amateur had won on the PGA Tour. Do you know who the last amateur before Dunlap on the PGA Tour was to have won?
33 years ago, Phil Mickelson. What are you doing?
You're
throwing the alley, and it's like
throwing you a softball. You hit it out of the yard. Okay,
Scott Verplank before him.
Do you know in what city Phil Mickelson won? Now you have to think, why would I ask this question too?
I know.
So Sia, do you know the answer?
Scottsdale?
Yeah. It's in
What
Arizona.
would you say, Sia?
Somewhere in Arizona.
Tempe?
Tucson, Arizona.
Tucson.
Which is where my alma mater. There you go. My alma mater, the University of Arizona, down in Tucson, when Phil Mickelson won in '91. So at least I got some redemption for asking you the softball question. Regardless, this week I'm playing without the Straka Im, and I know Spieth probably not going to win, but just in case he plays well, I'm playing this without market, especially if I'm getting Davis Thompson at this number at plus 2,200. I mean, we've talked about how good he is. Patrick talked about how good Denny is, and I'm getting him at a slight discount from where Patrick got him. And so I don't have to worry about Straka, Im, and Spieth. I love these without markets. I'm going to try to play them every week. Lucas Glover at plus 3,500 is a little short for me here. Might be parlay time, but we're not going to talk about any of Sia's picks because I don't want to mush anything like I did a couple of weeks ago on the show. Or was that, I don't know, a few weeks ago. Anyways, in his last 4 events here, Glover has finishes of including a T10, a win, a missed cut, and then a T6 last year. And in his last 11 John Deere Classics, he has strokes gained, ball striking in each one of them, which is pretty darn impressive. And I'll round that out with Seamus Power. Also kind of a shorter number in the without market, but at plus 3,500, I think there is a chance that, we can catch a slice here. But throw in a parlay. I mean, if you could turn Seamus Power into 70-1 by putting it with something, a pick that shall not be named, I recommend that. I honestly didn't even look before the show because I didn't want to mush anything. Yeah, I just want to put that up. All right, let's go into long shots. Boy, you got a few interesting ones, but let's start with Seamus Power. Patrick, why don't you give a better explanation than I just did?
No, you were great. I mean, besides the recent finishes, that was shocking. I did not know he was without a top 10 since the 2022 PGA, but gained throughout the bag there at the Travelers Championship, top 20, first time doing that since early March. Obviously, the course history here is great and can run definitely hot with the putter. So iron play looks to be in a better spot. This has been chopped a little bit, I would say, but I still like it anything around 50-1. And then Rio, sorry, someone texted me the correct pronunciation here. He saw Suni at 75-1. Kind of all the same reasons for Power. He seems to be really rounding into form and young talent. We think about all these young guys in the field, Thor Bjornsson, Neil Shipley, Dunlap, Clanton. I mean, Rio's only 21, so ton of upside here in my opinion. And then I also had Andrew Novak at 90-1 as well for all the reasons Sia said in the first round leader department, as well as what I said in the DFS.
Sia, I don't know much about Chandler Phillips, but I'll tell you, Ben Coles yesterday, when I wrote my article, was 250-1.
Wow.
And so that number has shrunk more than in half. So I know you talked about him earlier in the show and talking about when you get lines. That's kind of the thing. If you read our SportsLine columns, set up, check it early Monday morning, Monday afternoon. We have our columns up there, and there's good reason why. If you can find some value, or you can just parlay it and get it at 250-1 if you want. But okay, why Chandler Phillips, Sia?
Interesting. Chandler Phillips, the backstory on him is very interesting. His parents were actually really big Friends fans, Chandler Bing and the group Wilson Phillips. So that's actually how he got his name, which is 100% not the truth, but I just wanted to throw something out.
Wow.
Chandler Phillips at 100-1, folks. He is pretty good at the golf, the approach game, and the putter. I mean, this is what I'm looking for. And also, when you look at his last few tournaments, he's made the cut in all 3, but he's actually his finishing positions 10th and 12th in 2 of those tournaments. I do think he has some upside if he can get the approach play and the putter rolling. I do think, last I checked, I'm trying to remember what his accuracy rating was, but it was pretty good. It was in that 60+ range, which is certainly what I'm looking for. And then Ben Cole's 110-1. EC, you said it. His odds have been chopped considerably. He's another guy that can really get hot with the putter. We talked about him in the T30 market. And by the way, Ryo Hisatsune was another guy I was considering in the top 30 market. So if you want to consider him in the top 40, top 30, I do like him in this tournament as well.
So I can't resist these parlays, but we did hit a 14-1 the other week, and I'm going to hold that for as long as I can. May not hit another one the rest of the year, but we're going to darn well try. Put half my normal bet size on this first one, Davis Thompson and Lucas Glover to finish in the top 10. I absolutely love Davis Thompson. Hope we didn't mush him with Sia's and my, picking him this week. And Glover, the course history is there, 3 top 10s in his last 4 tournaments out here. And we saw him win twice last year in August in back-to-back weeks, which is very, very rare unless your name is Scotty Scheffler on the PGA Tour. And in this top 20, just because I wanted to include Davis Thompson again, We'll throw them in there. You can find this one at FanDuel, the first one at DraftKings. Denny McCarthy, who we like, Patrick and I like, Maverick McNeely, who we haven't talked about a lot on the show, but I mean, I kind of had some bets on McNeely last week, a little bitter about that. But this week against in a poor field, why not? And then Davis Thompson here plus 10 to 1. Yeah, I'll take that. And I'll put my normal bet size for this parlay on there. And then when we cash it, we'll feel good. And then I'll brag about it for 2 weeks until I hit another one. There you go. I'm just throwing it out there. All right. Sia, I'm going to start with you on this question. When you have a loss, do losses sting for you greater than wins feel great?
Oh, yeah. Wins don't feel great at all. I mean, sometimes they do when you hit like a 80 to 1 shot or like a first round lead or something fun like that. But wins are more like sighs of relief. And losses are like you're in the doldrums a little bit and you're trying to figure out, was it a bad play? Was it bad luck? How do I not have that happen again? And I don't remember the wins at all, to be honest with you, unless they're like the big splash wins. I always remember pretty much every single loss.
Patrick, you hit Jake Knapp at 65 to 1, I think it was, at the Mexico Open earlier this year, which is an incredible hit, by far the best that we've had. I think up there with Sia's FRL on Akshay Bhatia in San Antonio. So those are the two biggest hits that we've had on this program this year. Does that outweigh some of the tough losses, i.e. my Tom Kim mush for you the other week?
Dude, I've forgotten about that on Monday after he won. I mean, this past the Bryson one hurts at the U.S. Open because I loved him at the PGA, and I've always loved Bryson. Got off the wagon, and now we're coming off back-to-back second place finishes too. So, and I have the hair bet going, at least internally, and I did put it out there publicly that I'm not cutting my hair, and that shakes a little confidence too, right? You look at Scotty Scheffler, his haircut at the PGA Championship, not the best. It shook his confidence, the world number one, the best golfer in the world. So it's affecting me a little bit and potentially my mental state too. So we gotta, maybe this holiday weekend we'll kind of get the juju in the right spot, but we gotta get it going for the rest of this summer.
I'm getting my haircut tomorrow, and that's before Denny McCarthy wins for both of us, so then we'll be good to go. Any final thoughts, Sia? Just anything that stands out about this very horrible, awful, weak field that we see at TPC Deer Run?
It's only horrible if we lose our bets. I do want to, I'll leave you with this. I love weed, apparently. He says pick a Kim. There's not as many Kims in this tournament as normal tournaments because a lot of the talent is not in this field, but I'll pick a Kim for you. Not Chan Kim, although his ball striking is great. He can't putt. Let's go with Michael Kim. I think Michael Kim, we saw it last week a little bit. I think he's starting to come around with the ball striking a little bit. We're seeing some flashes with the approach play and his putter. If you look at his putter over the last 5 tournaments, he lost in 1 pretty significantly, was basically even in the other, but gained in 3 of those. So I think maybe we're starting to see something finally from Michael Kim.
Michael Kim, also a prolific tweeter as well. Excellent on there. Go ahead, Patrick.
Rank these Kims. Kim Possible, Kim Kardashian, and Kim Jong-un.
Oh, boy. Okay. Kim Possible, Kim Kardashian, and Kim Jong-un.
Wow. You put Kardashian second behind. Oh, okay. All right, Patrick. Last one for you. Who's the best tweeter outside of Michael Kim on the PGA Tour?
Well, it's not Michael Kim to begin with. Best tweeter, I would say a slightly buzzed Rory McIlroy. He's up there. You can tell when he's been drinking a little bit of that red wine.
You know, Max Homa hasn't been as active. Maybe I just don't follow him. Has he been super active lately on the Twitter? He used to be the dude with that.
Not really, not too much.
Interesting.
He's a dad now.
I'm going with your boy Benny On. I think he's fantastic on there, and he's got some good wit, and he snipes back at fans. You earn points if you do that. So just going to point that out. Great show as always, guys.
You know who used to be good at the Twitter? Sorry, EC. I can't believe I'm even bringing him up. Jim Herman used to be pretty funny. I mean, he hasn't really been relevant in a while, but Jim Herman, there's some there's some golfers of the past that aren't around very much that are pretty good at the Twitter. We need more of that in golf, frankly.
So, well, fortunately, wow, this is interesting. Joe says you're the best golf analyst tweeter. Patrick, I mean, I don't know. Patrick's has gone viral a few times here lately. All right, Patrick, last one. Yeah, just because I want to say this name on the air. Mike's Crappy Fishing is late to the chat here. He wants to know about Jason Day, who we haven't talked about. So give us some Jason Day something.
I did talk about him, actually. I did not like him over Davis Thompson. I like Davis Thompson instead. A lot of putting for Jay Day this year. Ball striking has not been looking good. Obviously, you got to make a lot of putts to make a lot of birdies, so that's positive. But I just don't think enough of those putts will be for birdie, and a lot of those putts will be for par. So I'm not too high on his chances. And, Sia is a great tweeter. You got to give him, the fans say it. They're the ultimate jury, not to steal one of your terms there, Sia, but they make the decisions at the end of the day.
Everyone, if you're not already following Patrick, make sure you follow him, because
you have to.
You go viral way, like it's crazy. It's perfect.
How many did that tweet end up with, by the way?
The space shuttle.
I will say I bought the first couple rounds once the paycheck came in from Twitter, and it was mostly from that one.
Is that right?
Yeah, I think I got like $55.
Strength on Patrick. Yep, there you go. We solved it. Okay, I don't need to bribe them with Keith Mitchell bets, because we know he's not winning this week. And he's the only one on my list that is playing this week, so we don't have to worry about him. Thanks to producer Jake, who in his own right is, I think, like a 1 or 2 handicap, and could probably outputt Jordan Spieth this week at TPC Deer Run. For Sia Nejad and Patrick McDonald, I'm Eric Cohen. So I always like to say, let's hit it big. Good luck.